strong. I'm black.
I am proud.
I'm gender fluid.
I am an activist.
I matter.
I'm your friend.
I am fierce. I'm fearless.
I'm creative.
And I'm fabulous.
I am queer.
I'm your neighbor.
I'm a non-binary person.
I'm a voter.
I am a leader.
I'm a fashionista.
I am gay.
I will not be erased.
I am gay.
I will not be erased.
I am Unity Coalition. Visit us at unitycoalition.org.
Hi everyone, welcome to UCTV. Today is Friday and I want to say happy Friday for all of you. Enjoy your day, have fun, stay at home, and remember, just wear a mask every time that you go out because the numbers are getting high and the things are getting worse and worse and worse. I'm so happy to be here. I'm your host, Samantha LeTroy, and today is the second part of Just Freaking Vote, part number 2. Dealing with elections and all these things that happen around until the election is coming. Disappointing, and we all just get over it. And why not? Just go and vote. Our people today, we have the amazing Her Sosa. Starting with the amazing Sosa. Hi, can you hear me?
Absolutely. How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to have you here. Thank you, Her Sosa. How are you? Tell me, welcome to the Go and Freaking Vote. This is part number 2.
Yeah, crazy. We got 4 days to go. It's one of those situations where we were all waiting for this and waiting for it, and now it's 4 days away, and I hope everybody's going to go out and vote. A couple of quick things before we do that. Unfortunately, we had a terrible loss in our community just last night. Juan Sacco Mironov, who was our own paparazzi to the LGBT community of South Florida, succumbed to COVID. Actually, he went through COVID. He actually was doing better, but unfortunately his lungs and his heart just couldn't take it. So it just makes it real. It makes this situation real. So if we could just have a moment of silence for Juan Sacco. And again, in South Florida, certainly Juan has been part of every event, pretty much every event that Unity Coalition has ever had. He's been a part of, and there hasn't been a drag show or a bar or a night out that he hasn't been a part of. So he will be greatly missed. But I know you've got some other announcements, Samantha, so tell us away.
Absolutely. Others announced that we call to trans artista. Yes. Are you a trans artist? You got to perform. And this is the opportunity for you. Looking for artists, painters, sculptor, photographer, and etc., honey. So all the artists together, we have that opportunity for you. Trans Art Exhibit now March 2021 at UCCU, which is Unity Coalition Coalición Unida Art Lab, with collaboration with Brightline. Promote, to show off, and sell your art. This is the opportunity for you. We have an open gallery for you for our transgender community, gender non-binary and gender non-conforming. So this is the opportunity so they can show our case and show to the world that we are here. And we are making an impact, right? It's the time to vote. So go ahead.
Samantha, if I understand correctly about the artists, it's 2 different opportunities because I know some people are confused. We have Trans Art, the festival in January, but you have a year-round gallery. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Absolutely. Yeah, the year-round gallery is just to open gallery for our transgender community and gender non-conforming. So we have 3 sections during the year, and we're gonna remove and promote UR, and then just to promote yourself and show you our case. But Trans Art is a specific event for our transgender community and showcase just during the time. We have a topic, we have events, we have community partnerships, and we have so much to talk about our community for the transgender. So there are 2 different ways to participate in the Art Lab, which is the 365-day open gallery, or the event for Trans Art, which is going to be in January 22 to 24.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I couldn't help myself today. You guys had such a great show on Wednesday with Just Frickin' Vote Part 1. I couldn't help myself to be part of the conversation today. I'm going to try to keep my opinions PG, but I can't promise that. But I am thrilled at the panelists that we have today. Not only do we have the beautiful Samantha LeTroy, but we have some of my best friends who also happen to be people that I highly respect and I think can add a lot to the conversation, starting with Miss Faye. What?
Yeah.
Hi, Faye. How are you?
Hi, family. Thank you for having me on. I love you both so much, and this is so important. And last Wednesday, I was watching, and I was like this. And I could just tell. I can imagine how many things Herb had to say that he couldn't say last week. I can't wait.
Hey, listen, I would have been muting myself. Don't worry. I would have been pushing that mute button every 2
Oh,
seconds.
wait, before you continue. Is this the time that we're going to use to put your microphone on mute?
Right, in 2 languages, Samantha. And then we also have the amazing Aaron BOS-LUN, who we, again, highest of respect. Welcome, Aaron. How are you?
I'm good. I'm hoping your opinions don't stay too PG, Herb. We're missing all so we're watching fireworks now.
No, of course not. And we have 2 other guests. The next guest, who is somebody that I'm so glad to bring him into this conversation for multiple reasons. First of all, he's somebody that I've known, I was going to say since he was a kid, but that's going to get me in trouble. I've known him for a long time, since he was younger. He's still very young. And I can honestly say this. He is, to me, one of the most talented, one of the funniest, most creative people that I have had the pleasure of knowing. So there, Daniel Colon, try to follow that up.
Hello, what's up? No pressure. Jesus. Thank y'all for having me on here. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to have some conversation with y'all. Appreciate it. Hopefully you could hear me. Could you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. I found it's a nice day. So in New York, I try to take advantage of it the most I can and try and be outside, especially when we're inside. Of course, safely. There's no one around me. So that's the only reason why I'm here with
Daniel is a content influencer. He certainly has a young perspective, and also I'm sure very opinionated about elections and everything else.
She has some opinions for sure.
Let me just kind of set ground rules, which aren't really ground rules, but respect everybody's opinion. Obviously, that's what democracy is all about, and that's what we're here to promote. By all means, that doesn't mean edit yourself. But let's just have respect for a lot of different opinions. It's frustrating, as I'm sure it is for every one of you. I've been reading a lot of articles today, and I had to remind myself that even looking at just the LGBT and Hispanic community, which Unity Coalition represents, we come in a lot of different shapes and colors and a lot of different opinions and a lot of different perspectives, and we have to respect that. It's a lot of times we get caught up in, oh, you're LGBT, you must think the way I do, and you must act the way I do, and you must vote the way I do, and that's not necessarily the case. So, having said that, I'd be curious. I'll start with you, Daniel. When was the first time that you voted, and what inspired you to register, first of all, and what inspired you to actually go vote?
Well, the very first time I voted was when President Barack Obama was running for election back in 2008. I had just graduated high school, so I was a wee baby. And I feel like this was maybe a couple years later, actually, when I met Herb. And yeah, I mean, it's our civil duty to vote. And it was just something that I felt was a super inspirational vote as well. It was about time we saw a person of color as a president, so that was truly the impetus for voting. And ever since, here in New York, definitely voting for the primaries and whatnot, trying to stay as informed as possible. I just think as a marginalized person, it is my responsibility to stay informed as much as possible as well. So yeah, I'm trying to do my part. I already voted out over here in New York, which was an experience and a half. Voter suppression is real, and I'm just really hoping that the long lines and the long waits don't push people away from voting. It is worth it. Even if you have to wait a couple hours, sacrificing a couple hours of your time is better than sacrificing 4 years of your freedom. So,
Very well said.
yeah. So that's where I'm at right now. But I already did it. Yeah.
You said about you said that you've witnessed some voter suppression. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
I mean, I think we need to completely overhaul the way our voter system is already. I think it's completely outdated. Technology is definitely surpassing it. I know voter security is important as well, but I don't know. Here, you would think New York City is a progressive city, and it is progressive in a way. But the way the voting districts are spread out, you have huge communities. I mean, I live over in the Heights, so it's mostly Latinx people. It's mostly Latino Hispanic community, and we have a tiny little building that is allotted to us for hundreds and hundreds of voters, and like, this is early voting. I could only imagine, like, if we didn't have this pandemic going on. But there are plenty of buildings here in the city, but what has been allotted for people to actually vote is just not enough. We have way too many people. We need more spaces to further to expedite the voting process. And it's just like, I could see people waiting in line and turning around and being like, it's not worth it. I don't want to wait in line for like this long. It should be expedited a lot quicker. But I think that has to do with the districts. Definitely, the districts have to be completely restructured as well. And yeah, I don't know. I think for me, it's like it's all part of it, and I hope people are truly encouraged to vote, no matter how long you have to wait.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Samantha, as I believe, the newest American citizen of this group. First of all, congratulations, American girl. I'd like to hear your perspective. You were born in Colombia. You like everybody else, it was a struggle to get here to the United States and to stay here and be here legally, and it's expensive. It's a lot of things. I'd be curious to hear what your perspective is on why it's important to vote. I mean, many of us come from countries that, voting was a privilege, and sometimes not even that. So I'm curious, what is your perspective of this election and your ability to be able to vote?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity. And it's my first time being here, as a guest, but at the same time I'm the host. So yes, thank God that I got the opportunity to be a U.S. citizen and, passing by different situations. And I think that the most important at this time for me and vote is to see how far I've been in my life and how I've been passing in a different situation when I was in Colombia. Let's start with the discrimination with the LGBT community, and then we're seeing other countries that they have this freedom and this opportunity to be yourself. And then since the beginning that I understand how the life was very hard, so I decide, just to be a better person and be out there and just to see when you get to the 18 and older and have this opportunity for you to be to 1 into 1,000 million people and make that decision, because I'm important for this country, for other country, for all decisions that I made. So when I got here and I see so many freedom, so many people that love each other, and opportunity to be myself, to be the person that I want to be, respect, but understand that there are so many that have been fighting for at the time that I got here. And to get into this freedom, I have to respect that they are all people, that they are fighting for me, that they are fighting for the future. So, and then at that time, I understand that, listen, this freedom is because so many people, they are paying for it. There are people that sacrifice their life just to get in here. It's not because I'm gay, and I'm this person and, oh, I'm here, let's get a job. No. to fight for you here to be in Florida when I get married, it was like very hard because I got to travel to New York and get married because at that time it wasn't legal to get same-sex marriage in Florida. So it was very hard at the time for me. And I'm like, I'm in the country of freedom, but I cannot get married in Florida. So that was hard. And at the time, I'm like, this is not totally freedom. And this is the time that this girl have to fight for it and make it bad and do what I have to do. So, and then last year, I got like, I have to fight. And then I got my citizen. And then with the pandemic and everything, honestly, I want to be honest with you guys, hard and see so many things that have been changing in the 2020 because it's not over, but the whole year has been changing, not only for the pandemic, for our life, for our freedom. And Latinos, we as a foreign people, we don't understand how hard it is to live in this country. And then when you got the citizen and you got the right to vote, that's the time that I'm like, I mean, honestly, I want to cry because I see myself passing by different situation, discrimination, that I'm like, I have this right and I have this little like sticker that say I vote. Oh my God, it's so wonderful and it's amazing. You guys don't know how, especially for me, you know, to be part and vote. Girl, I'm ready. So let me know. Where's I now?
You're going to make me cry here, girl. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And it was the perfect segue to Miss Faye. Faye, you just proudly celebrated, I believe it was your third wedding anniversary with your wife.
Yes, my 3rd year anniversary. And I got to tell you guys, it was bittersweet. And it was not because of COVID, you know, because we're lesbians. We adapt. Go to Home Depot and grab some snow crabs and we're good, you know? So that was not the case. It was just more like in my heart of hearts, my fear. Let me start. I'm fearful as a Latina. I'm fearful as a woman, and I'm fearful as a married lesbian right now. The fact that our marital rights are in jeopardy, I mean, it brings tears to my eyes because just like Samantha was just expressing how difficult it was for her to have to go to New York to get married, like I was, you know, I'm a vieja. I was like, I'm never getting married. Then, lo and behold, I find somebody that could put up with my shit and wants to put a ring on my finger. And the fact that those rights might be taken away because of this new Supreme Court justice and this administration. It's, you know, like I said, we celebrated 3 years happily, but it definitely was bittersweet. Just the thought that maybe we won't be celebrating many more scares the living crap out of me.
Yeah, thank you. Well, let me ask you, Aaron, this one's for you because, again, you're all like, you're writing the script for me here. You know, the idea of marriage equality is personal for me, you know, pre-existing, you name it, go down the list, just about everything that is being threatened right now hit home in one way or another. Aaron, I'd be curious to hear from you. Why should I care? And this is not just to the general public, but even our own community. You know, what if somebody says, you know what, I don't want to ever get married. I don't care. I don't want to adopt a kid. I don't care. I'm healthy, whatever the case is. Why should it matter? Why should we care about female reproductive issues? Why should we care about abortion? Why should we care about Black Lives Matter? I mean, you name it, just about any topic right now. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Tammy and Herb, for having me back. It's good to be with you all. You know, I think we started off with Daniel talking about voting in New York and the lines and saying that voter suppression is real. And I think the question about to care or not to care, let's start with, if voting didn't matter, they wouldn't try to make it so hard for you to vote, right? If it was something that wasn't important, then they would not be investing hundreds of millions of dollars in misinformation and trying to block the ability of people to make decisions. Because those who don't believe in equality, those who don't think that every life has equal potential and equal value, that's not the majority in this country, right? You talk about the issue of abortion. 61% of men in the United States are pro-choice in some way. And if you look at people who think that abortion should be legal in all or most cases, that's upward of 70%. And I think for most of us on the call, right? I'm 32. I've never lived in a world where women didn't have the option to make a choice of what was best for themselves and for their own body. You sort of hear stories about what it might be like if you didn't, and maybe people have lived in countries where the ability to make that choice is more limited. But to us, it's like almost like something that's like just part of the natural environment if you've lived here for a while, right? Like the grass is green, the sky is blue, and like, yeah, like there's people who don't want women to have the ability to make choices, but they're never really going to have their day. Well, they have a 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court right now, and they're very interested in a society in which women don't have equal standing to men, let alone queer people, LGBT people, gay people, bi people, trans people, whatever else. And to the question of why should we care even if we don't see ourselves getting married? I mean, when Faye said the thing about Home Depot and being adaptable, I was like, man, like I'm a single gay guy living here. Like, why don't you come on over and fix the light that I haven't known how to fix since March? But I like the fact that even though I'm a single gay guy, I like the fact that I'm single because I can't find someone to marry, not because Mike Pence is telling me I can't.
And if anybody's interested in Aaron, please swipe right. No. No, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Let me ask you, Aaron, another question. The whole political process, and obviously, you know why I'm asking you. You are, you don't seem to be bitter on politics as of yet, which is wonderful. And I asked that specifically to you because tell us a little bit about your mom and what she has just accomplished. And I'd like to know your perspective on whether you feel that her political involvement has made you more interested or more jaded, if you will, with politics, and how?
Yeah, well, thank you for the question. I mean, for me, it's a kind of a wild story because my own political interest, it comes from a lot of places, but one of the first ones was I was observing the first election I really watched was the 2004 election, which was George W. Bush versus John Kerry. And people now, because Trump is like so terrible, like we're in this place where like we're used to the Emperor from Star Wars, so Darth Vader seems like a good guy. Let's not pretend that George W. Bush was a great president for us. But I remember being 16 and watching the 2004 election. And something that really stuck with me from that was that George W. Bush basically campaigned on two issues. Right? It was anti-terror and anti-gay. Those were like the two, let alone trans, like that would, just gay marriage was like such a threat to the country on the same level as terrorism. And from the way he talked about it, you couldn't really tell which was the biggest. But gay people and terrorists were like out to get us and going to collapse American society. And I was 16 years old and I was living in a very rural environment, town of 500 people, had never known an openly gay person. And to see the president of the United States campaign on that issue, say gay people are a threat, not even gay marriage, but people, right? Like these people are going to do something to us if they have the same rights that I have or that you have when he's talking to the voters. And to see more than 50% of the country say yes, absolutely. And on that issue in particular, agree with him, sent a message to me as a closeted 16-year-old deciding if this country was able to have space for someone like me, that it didn't. And that the way to be accepted was to hide if you were a queer person. And I was very lucky to find out eventually that wasn't the case. But I also would have rather the president of the United States not be sending me that message when I was a confused 16-year-old. So for me, that's where it really started. The idea that there are people who don't want you to have the same rights they have, who are much more comfortable feeling superior to you and more than willing to exercise power towards that end. I've acted on that in a number of ways and done a number of things in my life to try to build up both my ability to make a difference in people's lives directly as a former teacher, as an organizer, and now in electoral politics and community organizing. But my own mom, in sort of this like delicious plot twist in the middle of a terrible year, one thing that has happened is that as I got increasingly involved in politics, my mom started to. And I'll say this now, like it's a little bit like whatever, but when she first started to get more involved in campaigns like a year or two ago, I honestly thought it was like she wanted to like talk to me about the stuff I was doing. So like this is the thing shows because she's always cared about community issues. But I was like, oh mom, okay, like you're volunteering for camp, like that's cool. Like that's kind of like, like that politics has never been your thing. You're someone who cares about community and impact, but not politics. And to her credit, she just started like ripping and rocking and rolling. And then earlier this year, she got recruited by a women's group to run for public office. And she called me and she's like, I think I might run for office. And I was like, you hear about these moms in the news who are like stepping up to run for office, but like to see your own mom do it was like pretty freaking cool. And of course I work in politics and I work as a strategist and as an organizer. And so it was crazy. Like my mom decided, she lives up in Vermont, that she was going to run for the Vermont House of Representatives, and to like be your mom's like strategist and consultant in a digital campaign during a pandemic was like peak 2020. And this is a wild, bizarre thing, but she ran and she kicked ass. She was a really good candidate, and she won her primary. So 4 days from now, knock on wood, she won the Democratic primary and she's in a safe Democratic seat. My mom's going to be a member of the Vermont House of Representatives, and she's interested in pushing for, we think about like asylum programs, and I think it's something very different in Vermont than in Miami. But one of the things that like the Trump administration has blocked people who are seeking asylum from being able to be safely accommodated in this country, and in many cases they just turn them away. They're more than happy to see them be hurt, to die. They really don't care. And one of the things my mom wants to work at the state level is how do you create programs where state governments can help welcome asylum seekers into communities and make them part of the community, and make sure that they have jobs, they have lives, and that they're integrated. So that's one of the issues she's going to work on. She wants to work on climate issues. And I'm just so proud of her. And it's one of those things, like you see it in the news in the last 4 years, like in response to all the terrible stuff happening, that these like genuinely community people who never saw themselves in politics are doing it, which is great. And now it's funny, no one's ever going to believe that politics was my thing, because it looks like I came from like, but I'll take it. Like, it's cool, politics and community should be intertwined. And I'll take now looking like a political dynasty kid or whatever. Sure, why not?
I want his mom. I want Aaron's mom. Ask your mom if she's looking for a lesbian daughter. I'm
actually got a rainbow tattoo, so she's already got
Oh my God, Mom! We love this.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Mr. Daniel, question for you.
Yes, sir.
I have the
Answer.
advantage of knowing you. You have lived in what I would consider two of the hotbeds, if you will, of politics in the United States. That's Orlando, the I-4 corridor ish, and also obviously in the Heights. And specifically outside of Puerto Rico proper, Orlando is the largest Puerto Rican population in the country, the largest voting bloc, and the Heights isn't too far behind that.
No.
So I'd like to hear your perspective on a couple of things. What just living in both of those communities, what similarities or differences do you see? And then I'll ask you, of course, the most dreaded question. What's your opinion on scapegoat for Puerto Rico?
Oh gosh. Yes, that is pretty hefty. That's meaty. So as far as my experience of living both in Orlando and the Heights as well, I don't know. My community in Orlando, I wasn't, they definitely conformed a bit. Florida is just a weird state in general. Like, it's just Florida in its entirety. I ran, and I came to the city for a bunch of those reasons. It's just like, my mom, conversations with mom has been great and enlightening. I don't know. As far as the community I was surrounded with in Orlando, they were pretty progressive for Orlando, and that's saying a lot. They were pretty progressive for Orlando. And over here in the city, as far as action goes, people want to take action here within the community. There's more of a community here, I think, because community has been established for a lot longer here in the Heights, whereas in Orlando, it feels like it was developed little by little, especially in the Kissimmee area where I was really raised for quite some time. So everything was under development. And I went and I visited recently, and I'm just like, wow, this is not what I thought it was. There's all these buildings. I'm like, who is coming? I mean, my thoughts is most likely all the Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico, because I mean, if they get hit by another Maria, let's be real, there's not going to be much of an island left. And that has been a conversation with my relatives in Puerto Rico as well. It's just like, they're like, oh, you're unemployed. I am unemployed right now. I am an unemployed artist, which is a whole other thing as well. I was an actor. I was like really going for it, and now everything's sort of stopped. but like my family is like, you're employed, come to Puerto Rico. And it's like, guys, y'all should be talking about leaving the island. Y'all should be coming over here and seeking the mainland. And as far as politics go over there in Puerto Rico, I mean, I have my guncles are over there. I love them to death. My abuelita's over there as well. And they call me for like what's the right thing. They call me, they're like, what should we do? So they definitely trust me as far as like opinions goes, and my opinions are always going to be on the progressive side. I just like, I don't know yet about Puerto Rico. There's so much happening internally that it's just so corrupt. So it's just like at this point, they need to completely change their government in order for anything to work. It's just so, and I think as a collective in the world, we're seeing that conversation happen in not just our country and other countries as well. Like my idea is just like, I'm not going to be satisfied until we have complete constitutional reform. It's just like, we need to completely change the system from the ground up. It was based on like a system of oppression, and we're trying to move away from that. And I'm just like, let's just get to work. And I think people here in New York, specifically in my community, we want to get to work. Whereas I felt that when I was in Orlando, my community was expecting for other people to do the work. And they felt like they didn't really have a say yet, because they were still living in this like their community wasn't theirs. I'm just like, no, y'all can create your own community. You moved here, you could like take ownership of that. Don't expect other people to move their feet for you. Especially for Puerto Ricans, like, we have so much privilege. We could literally just come from the island and we're just like, oh, we're here. What are we doing? We could live our life like no big deal. And it's just like, in the Heights, it's mostly a Dominican community. It's a heavy Dominican community, and I think immigrants are some of the most patriotic people. Like, they're more patriotic than citizens, because it's just like they come, they work, they gain their citizenship, and they're like ready to take ownership of their civil duty. And like, Puerto Ricans are just like, at least the Puerto Ricans I know. I mean, I'm hoping we all they start fighting, and I start going. So yeah.
Can I add to that?
Of course.
So you had asked before about the first time that everybody had voted, and I'm Puerto Rican Colombian from New Jersey, and a huge Puerto Rican population there. But growing up, it was like that. It was like we don't have to mess with the waters. We're good.
Mm-hmm.
So it was never like implied that voting was a right, que era un derecho, that we had to be proud of that opportunity and that gift. It was never a thing growing up. It was kind of like, oh yeah, it's voting. Oh, what are all those white people doing standing over there? Oh, they're voting.
Yeah.
What a waste of time.
We didn't talk politics. We didn't talk politics at home. No politics.
But then we get a couple of hurricanes, and we get a stupid ass throwing paper towels, and all of a sudden we're like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, we're not that loved. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, how crazy is that?
I'm a light-skinned Cuban boy in Miami, first generation. I get it. We think the same thing. It's us and them. We're not worried about it because we've got the rights, we've got the political clout, and unfortunately, sometimes that's a bad thing. It's a bad thing because it doesn't motivate people.
No. It doesn't. We're not other. We're part of a community as well, and I think it's important that we step into, like, we claim ownership over this, and we're just like, we move. It's time to move.
Well, I want to talk about some issues, and Samantha, I'm going to come back to you. The issue of racial tension or racial divide. Okay, whether it's socially, judicially, economically, is something that obviously you've seen firsthand here in the United States, but just recently in Bogota, they burned down over 80 police stations within 2 weeks because they had a very similar, let's call it a George Floyd situation, and the community just had enough. So I'd like to ask you again, from your perspective as a woman of color, a Latina. Do you see similarities? Do you see differences in your living in Colombia, and now living here in the United States, understanding that Miami is a bubble. Miami is not the rest of the United States, but this is what we got. So let's work with it.
Let's start with that because Miami, you know, sometimes we say that Miami is not part of the U.S., but it is. But it's sometimes. Oh, okay. So yeah. Well, I see the difference between all this situation that happened with Floyd and also with the all police station in Colombia. Some of the things they have some similar stuff that happened because it's a violence. It's something that it came from the community because the community is like rough. It's just like we are dealing with some situation, and it's the time that people that they're in the high levels they don't do anything for us. So that's the time that the community says like, oh, let's gonna do this, you know, let's make some vandalism, let's do this, because they don't have a job, they don't have a situation. I want to share something with you guys that the first time, the time that happened with Floyd, I have the opportunity to be in Philadelphia. It was my first time in Philadelphia. I want to share this with you because it was so bad with me. It was so hard. I never saw anything. Believe me, I've been in different places on the hood that we said on the hood because I'm from some area in Colombia that it was no rich, it was no a medium level, it was something not a poor level, but it was hard to find job. It was hard to find different things in our society. So it was very hard to grow up and have a new life. So I went to Philadelphia and I went to my sister and I told her like, listen, let's go to the store just right there in the corner. Never in my life find out that in front of me I will see 5 guys broken the window into the liquor store, and I took my phone and I was like recording like it was just a dream, a nightmare. I saw everything, and then just the police came and did nothing. Just like, oh, you're just getting out the window. Oh no, you know what? Just leave the stuff here and run away. Boys and girls, that was the hard situation ever. And not only that, I see a car driving more than 60 miles an hour and hit into the dry scooter store. They have like a little more scores store. The guy just hit into it like a Fast Furious movie, and it was very hard. I never saw that in Colombia. So and then I think like is the time that I feel comfortable and secure in this country? Is this the thing that I want to bring myself safe and secure? Is this the time that I have to make an impact being a U.S. citizen, that I can make all these things like no happen again? So it's hard with the situation with the guns that people have the whatever they can do with the gun here, and it is not in Colombia, especially especially with the restriction that I have to be, with the dealing with drugs and, situation that is very hard. There are some people that have control of gun, but it's not like the way that it's here. So it's the time for me. And then I retreat the question that Hersosa said, is the same in Colombia that here. So honestly, guys, this is the time that I'm feeling myself, that sometimes we say like, is that secure, the place that I am? Is this the right place that I want to be? Or this is the time that I have to make an impact and go involved? Is that answering the question?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nobody go away. I want to hear from Samantha about your show for Monday. Tell us about Monday.
So this is one. Our show for Monday, that's going to be on November 2nd, 2020. Remember that we are here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. El Día de los Muertos, celebrating the grand opening festivity in a Casa Amarilla, the first community center of trans sex workers in Ensenada, Baja California, Mexico. So you don't miss this opportunity with Willie Resendez. He's the daddy from Mexico, and he is the grandfather for all the Mushes. So he's going to be with us. So Willie Resendez, de Corte Imperial La Corona de Borbón de Vizcaya in Mexico. and Jacqueline Alexandra Aguilar de Camila, Center of Directors. So don't miss this opportunity. That's going to be on Monday, Dia de los Muertos, celebrating the end of October month. So don't miss it. Oh, wait a minute. Don't forget to subscribe in our YouTube channel and click the button for notification.
There you go. So rapid fire questions to each of you. What are your personal, you don't have to be politically correct at all. What are your 3 most important things or your 3 priorities as the elections approach us? What are the 3 most important things to you? Starting with Faye.
Important things to me for it to be over. Like, I am so stressed out. I mean, like, this is like waiting for the results of a biopsy, right? Like, I'm like, oh, I'm so tense that either a cubic zirconian or a diamond's gonna come out my butt Tuesday night. Like, it really is. You know, I mean, ACB is in the Supreme Court, right? She was slipped right by us. It's not like we had anything that we could do about that. So she's in there. You know, and like I told you guys before, I'm worried about women's rights. I'm worried about someone being able to tell me what to do with my body. You know, we are very resourceful. Women are very resourceful. LGBTQ people are very resourceful. If you tell us that we can't do something, we will figure out a way to do it, even if it is the illegal way and the unhealthy way. So I'm like super, super worried about, you know, I'm a woman that is sitting in front of you today that had to make some really hard decisions in my younger life. And one of those decisions was to have an abortion. And I know now that it was the right decision. I can't even fathom for me to have right now a 15-year-old child with someone that was abusive, okay? And that was my truth. That is my truth. And the fact that someone can tell me what to do with my body scares the hell out of me. So definitely women's rights, definitely my marital rights as a lesbian woman, you know, God, you know, BLM, this, you know, it's time. It's time. The fact that, you know, I have my mother-in-law constantly saying, like, why are they still protesting? You know, my mother-in-law is Cuban. She thinks everything is comunismo. You know what I'm talking about, Herb, you know? So, I mean, I can give you a laundry list. I could not stop at 3 as to how important this is. Every single election they say this is the most important election of our lives, right? I think they say that just to say that. This actually is the most important election that anybody on the screen right now or anybody listening has ever been a part of. Not one party, not one person, male or female, is not going to be affected by the decisions made by these people that are going to be put into power if we don't get out there and vote. I'm worried about my LGBTQ people that are thinking, none of these people are going to do anything for me anyway, so why bother? I'm worried about my Puerto Rican people out there that are just like, we've got all our rights, who cares? You know, I'm worried that those people won't go out to vote because they feel that they are voiceless, so who cares? You know, some polls say that Biden is ahead, some polls say the other. You know, that I won't even give him any respect by saying his name. It's too close to call. And living in Florida, we're always the crazy state. You know, we're always the state that if you win us, you usually win the whole thing. And it's scary times. We're given 2 extra weeks to vote. That's how messed up Florida is. We're given 2 whole weeks of any time of the day from 8 in the morning to 8 at night to vote. And we still have to push our voters out to vote, if that tells you anything. So
it takes a long time to walk from the cemetery to the polling. That's why.
It takes a long time to go
God.
from the to the poll, you know.
Okay, Faye, I'm going to put you on the spot. Para nuestros televidentes en español, dinos por qué tú vas a votar y cuáles son las 3 prioridades para ti en estas elecciones.
And you do it in Spanish. Ay, Dios mío, Herb, como tú eres.
Ahí,
bueno,
en tu punto.
Tengo que decir que, you know, primeramente tiene que ser los derechos de las mujeres. I mean, no estamos en los 1950, gente. Y esta señora que ya se está puesto al Supreme Court, Amy Coney Barrett, ella quiere ponernos para atrás en esa época, you know, and it's scary times. Son momentos bien, es que es algo que me da mucho miedo. So, los 3 cosas, honestamente, immigrants, you know, hay muchos soldados que han han peleado por nuestros derechos. Vietnam War, tú puedes seguir diciendo de toda la guerra que hemos tenido. And we've had soldiers in there, inmigrantes que lo han deportado para atrás a sus países. Eso no debe estar pasando, señores. Son los derechos de las mujeres, los inmigrantes, LGBTQ rights. Nosotros ya tenemos los derechos y nos los quieren quitar. Muchas cosas que voy a quitar de prioridad que tiene que ver con las elecciones este año.
Excellent.
Thank you. Yes. Queen.
Samantha, why are you voting? What are the 3 most important things why you need to get out the vote? ¿Cuáles son las 3 prioridades para ti en estas elecciones, Samantha?
Just quickly, I'm going to say this in Spanish and English because I'm a bilingual, honey. So I'm going to say, so the 3 priority for me is those kids that they've been separated on the border from their parents, they need to go back with their parents. Here, they don't need to go back to any other country. They have to be together with their family. That's my priority number 1. The love from the family. So get those kids together with their parents. Number 2, for my transgender community, I want to get a job. I want to get a healthcare. I want to be in a doctor in a medical environment that tell me that I'm not bipolar or I'm crazy. I'm a transgender woman and I want a healthcare and HRT for my community. And the third, but not the last one, what's going to be? Yes, the most important. Discrimination for my community, for everybody, for the human. We are human and we need to show to your love to the rest of the people. Stop for being nationalizing, stop for being of your color, stop for being for whatever you want. So ahora en español, los niños que se han separado de sus padres en el borde, esta va a ser mi prioridad número 1, que el amor vive en la familia porque Dios ha creado amor y este país está creado por Dios. Número 2, mucha salud para nuestra comunidad transgénero, que nos puedan aceptar, tener buenos empleos, podemos llegar a cualquier clínica y que no nos diga somos bipolares o que tú eres un hombre vestido de mujer. No, somos mujeres transgénero. Y la tercera, pero no la última, se las voy a dejar. Lo más importante, el amor por la comunidad. Quiere, acepta, apoya a todas esas personas, especialmente en esta cuarentena. Así que basta de racismo, de odio para las mujeres que no pueden encontrar empleo porque son adultas, para el hombre que le falta una pierna, el que le falta un ojo. Todos podemos trabajar, así que aceptémonos y cuidémonos todos unos con otros porque el amor es lo que vale. Así que aquí lo tienen.
Lo que dijo ella. Okay, can I just go back and just grab her?
Of course. Aaron, same question. Why are you voting, and what are your 3 priorities for this election?
Yeah, well, when I became a public school teacher in 2012, I remember saying something then that's really just been the way that I can summarize the whole worldview, essentially, which boils down to no kid should look out at the United States and think it's not built for them. Period, end of sentence. That decision should be made thinking back. No kid should look out at the United States and think it's not built for them. So we think about one issue that Sammy's talking about, the kids on the border, right? 545 of whom were lost by the government, right? If a public school teacher lost 545 pieces of paper, they would never be allowed to teach in a public school again. And yet the president of the United States can lose 545 children and we act as if it's nothing, let alone all of the ones that we do know where they are because they're in concentration camps on the border right now. It's unbelievable that we've become to that level. So that would be a big one for me. The second one, and it's related to a larger sense of just how we interact with each other, but they brought up the example of making the choice around abortion. And, if men could get abortions or could get pregnant, like you'd be able to get an abortion for like a quarter at a soda machine, right? It wouldn't even be a question, right? And I guess that gets into like the third thing for me, which is that every election we kind of go back and forth and like there's this game that gets played where we talk about like, oh, like some people want the tax rate to be this and some people want it to be this, and but we're all like on the same team. And I think, and this is gonna sound a little bit harsh maybe, but if anything, the last 4 years should have shown us we are not on the same team. Mitch McConnell running the Senate is not playing by the same rules. Mike Pence looking at every single person involved in this conversation does not see a person worthy of equal treatment. He just doesn't see it, right? They see annoyances, they see people to bully, and it's this battle of on the one side represented by Donald Trump and all of his just C- mediocre, trust fund, nasty, leftover, bullying, cruel people who want to exercise power over everyone else because they've been given everything their whole life, and they don't think that the way you treat people has any consequence because nothing that has ever been done to them has ever made them have less standing in the world. So they don't have a sense of what it feels like to be left out, to be mistreated, to be the kid thinking they can't have a future. Get rid of all those people, get rid of everything they represent, and send a message that bullying in all forms is not okay. And then let's start over, hopefully, and I'm going to sound a little naive here, but maybe remembering that a good 30 to 40% of the country is willing to watch the rest of the country burn without care if they get to have the little cult release that they get from following this maniac. So get rid of it. Let's do something better. Let's be a lot better than what we're seeing. And let's not pretend this is about some people want 17% tax and some people want 13. Some people want bullying and some people want like human beings.
Don't hold back, Aaron. Tell us how you feel. No, that was amazing. Thank you.
Yes.
Daniel.
What's up? So, here's the tea. 2020 came with the promise of being the year of clear vision, and she delivered. If anything, 2020 has completely shaken the way we see reality. And I'm going to speak a space from hippy dippiness. As far as my priorities go, my main priority is first getting Lord Voldemort out of office, because I mean, it's just time. He's a demagogue, and he's just given a lot of people permission to voice their opinions, no matter how incorrect they are. And my second priority is to create conversation with the other side, you know, and it's going to ask a lot from other people to create empathy for the oppressor in some sort of way. But honestly, we have to bridge that gap. Like, we're polarized, we are on two different sides, but I'm always going to try to see myself in the other, no matter what. That hate, whatever they have festering inside of themselves, if the far left is using the same amount of hate towards them, then they're not any better right now. I don't want to take away the pain and the hurt from other people. I do not want to take away that. It is cathartic. We need to experience it. It's totally fair. But we're going to get to a space where that energy is going to run out, and then what are we going to have left? We need to create space to listen, and that's when true action and true change can actually happen. And my next priority is to create, you know, historically during civil rights movement, during any sort of turbulent time, some of the greatest artwork came out. And honestly, I think a way of having these conversations is through art, through creating content, through creating new things. You know, I'm curious to see like what like, you know, during the 80s we had this huge surge of AIDS plays to talk about HIV and AIDS. And like, I'm ready for the next wave of COVID plays where we talk about what happened during these times. Those are the conversations that I'm wanting to happen. You know, as an actor, I don't really know when I'm going to be able to be on stage, but I'm a writer, and writing is a tool. So I'm going to write this story. I'm going to write these things, and I'm hopefully going to be able to create safe spaces to have these conversations with people that are really scared. People are scared to have these conversations, and I'm looking forward to creating those conversations in a way that just makes sense, and we could just really understand each other. You know, it's just like, if like a conservative loves Will and Grace, but like doesn't really love like LGBTQ rights, it's just like, where's the disconnect here? It's just like, oh, but I love Will and Grace. It's like, okay, but like what's going on here? It's just like, oh, yeah. So that's where I'm at. I'm always going to want to elevate the collective space in some sort of way. I think we're all in this together. We don't win until we all win. So that's why it's important to vote, no matter what. You know, if trans women of color really set the stage for gay rights, you know, it is my responsibility as a young, informed gay individual to step in those shoes and fight for my Black trans sisters out there, you know, it is my responsibility. I have to do it. I cannot leave this work to a privileged white man. No ma'am, no ham, no turkey. Goodbye. Not having it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that. And my next question, and we have one more question, and then we'll close this out. But Daniel, remember, you set yourself up for this. I would love if you shared any spoken word piece that comes to mind right now of your work.
Oh wow. I mean, honestly, one that comes up is Young Boy. Young Boy is one that it really sticks out to me. It's something that I wrote about just expressing your gender, femininity in any sort of way. But this is a little something called Young Boy. Hopefully I remember all of it. It's been a minute. But young boy, sit up straight. Young boy, don't act that way, look that way, smile that way. A limp wrist smack. Boys don't do that. Young boys walk with purpose in each step. Young boy, grow some goddamn hair on your chest. Here's a jar for sensitivity and a box locked away. Let's strip away the femininity, trim it here and here and here. Young boy, young queer one, questioning identity. This is toxic masculinity. You strip away humanity, what's left of me allegorically, categorically. I'm speaking in the voice that I've been given, yet you're telling me to deepen it? Young boy, hey, young boy with sunken chest, walk tall, but walk tall for yourself and not for another. Walk tall because it is your truth, because you are committed to living authentically. Young boy, walk tall, walk committedly, young boy. Hey, stand tall and smile, because hey, young boy, you were born this way. And scene.
Thank you so much.
Just a little something.
Aaron, walk us through, forget November 3rd. What's our world going to look like December 3rd?
Well, I will have a new light. Faye and her wife will have come fixed it after their Home Depot run. We'll get to that. My biggest worry, I mean, if Donald Trump is reelected and we don't get the pandemic, that is a whole other situation. But my biggest worry falls into, either world we're looking at, right? That we could either be in the situation, if the elections are over on November 4th, and it might not be, but by December 3rd, if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have won, I really worry that we're going to fall into this place of like, oh, they've got it handled, right? Like the game set, we beat the bad guy, we made it to the last level, 2020 is over, what a terrible year, it can't get any worse than that, it can't get any worse than Donald Trump, we've got this. And what's going to happen is, at every point, and I'm a former history teacher, every point in American history, when there's progress, there's backlash to that progress. So there are going to be people who very much don't want there to be a black woman as vice president of the United States. There are going to be people who very much don't like that a message that every life has some value is now the message coming out of the White House. And they're going to organize, and they're going to come back with a ferocity that we've never seen in our lives. They're going to be organized, and they're going to be fighting for what they feel like is their survival. So we need to be ready for that. And it starts with organizing. It starts with talking with people. It starts with training ourselves and young people and making sure that we're stepping up and doing what we need to do so that we have a whole infrastructure that works towards the kind of society we want, where every life has value and is treated like it. So there's that fear that we don't do that and that we're sort of outgunned by people who are fighting for their perceived survival. They'll actually be fine, but they feel that way. And then, of course, the nightmare scenario is that we have a president who's going to keep trying to sell hydroxychloroquine or whatever he feels like selling in that moment while the numbers go to 300, 400, 500,000 Americans dead, which is... that gets into a level where we're looking at a 2021 or 2022, where 2020 is going to look like the good old days if we don't get that guy out. So let's not think about that. Let's not let this be the best year we've had and keep descending even further. But I do worry that, we should have learned from this moment that each of us has a responsibility to look out for both ourselves and everyone else. and that's going to still be the case even if we have a president who's better than the one we have right now.
Yes.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
You know that if when Biden wins, right? Because we're manifesting it. We're making it happen.
Yes.
We are positive people, all right? So when Biden and Harris win, you all have to agree that Trump is not going to leave silently. That's going to be like jalándolo por la pierna to get out.
He avoided the question completely about transfer of power. He's not going to go away easily at all.
Well, and something I have to chime in here. Something that Aaron just said. Well, everything that all of you have said actually has been right on point. But let's not kid ourselves. Trump did not invent racism in the United States.
No.
Trump merely gave it a green light from the highest office in the land. Okay.
Right.
He did not create the racial divide that we have in this country. He just looked the other way and fanned the flames of hate. And by the same token, listen, I think Biden is a great guy. Am I jumping for joy at this candidate? No. Do I think that life will change radically in our favor, as Aaron said, come November 3rd or January 20th? I hope, but will it solve all issues? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I've always said this, and this may sound a little controversial, but neither party really loves us. It's which one loves us less or which one loves us more. Our work is not done if one party or the other is elected, and we've seen that time and time again. So diligence, being steadfast, voting, it's important. It's very, very, very important. As frustrating as it is, and as many times as we see people that we elect that once they're in office look the other way, get them out, get somebody else in. And I know that's easy to say, but if we don't stay active, then we have nothing and no one to blame.
Yeah.
But how sad is that? How sad is that, Herb? That we have to choose between who will do us the least harm. That is
the lesser
how
of two evils.
That's sad. And we had 4 years, Democratic Party. We had 4 years to come up with someone undeniably amazing that would have kicked this guy's butt.
I read something, and I wasn't prepared for this right now, but I read an article the other day that was actually quite fascinating, talking about just that, about the choices that both parties made. And they were basically, and I'm paraphrasing, if there's one positive thing you could say about the Republican Party, is they unembarrassingly and wholeheartedly support their one candidate. They know where they want to stand for the most part as a party. Sadly, I think that the Democratic Party was so obsessed with, every poll and every statistic and what was politically correct and can we get this person elected or can we not get this person elected, that we ended up with vanilla. And I don't mean I just mean in general. If you look at who, forget about the polls and forget about all of that, as the Republicans have with their candidate, and you just look at what do we believe in? What do we stand for? Okay. I can assure you that Biden would not have been the first or second choice. Biden wasn't Biden's own choice. He didn't want to run in this campaign. Let's be honest. He didn't want to run. There were several other very, very qualified individuals that we were afraid were not electable.
It was the name. I think the name has to do with it as well. It was like a lot of people knew the name as well. I mean, so much of this I feel is very calculated too. But yes, for sure.
And one of the many, if there's ever, listen, I don't expect Trump to write any books that would actually fill an actual presidential library, but certainly a lot of tweets. And if there's one of them that'll stick with me is, what do you have to lose? As he so beautifully said to the Black community. Sadly, I think we should have asked that same question of the Democratic Party. What do we have to lose in regards to getting the right person and really sticking to our ideals and sticking to what the party believes in? And I think that, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that we do prevail. And again, it's not about party. For me, it's so past parties at this point. It's really about right and wrong and good and evil. But I really hope that we don't learn a very bitter lesson because we tried to go so mainstream and so middle down the road and not stuck to what we believe was the right direction and the right choices. I hope I'm not wrong. And with that note, I would invite all of you, please, somewhere around December 3rd. We'll look at the calendar, but I would love for all of us to come back on here. We'll all bring our own. We'll bring our own little Zanny pill and our.
I'll bring a glass of wine.
Whatever you need, a pan con bistec, whatever your addiction is.
You will see something intravenously in me, okay?
We'll cry together. We will get through this. If anything, the power of the community is real.
But I really would like to invite each and every one of you back for this discussion because, again, November 3rd is important, but it's really just another day.
Absolutely. I'm here for it.
This battle. Thank you so much, our lovely hostess Samantha LeTroy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And of course, our lovely Faye, Daniel, Aaron, all of you are amazing. Samantha, take us out and tell us what you're going to be doing again on Monday.
Yes, remember on Monday we're going to have El Día de los Muertos, celebrating the grand opening festivity.
We lost you.
We lost you.
Alexandra and
no. Mercury's in retrograde, y'all. Mercury's in retrograde.
That full moon tomorrow is coming.
All right.
Full moon in Taurus tomorrow.
Everybody stay safe. Happy Halloween. And wear.
Thank you. Stay blessed. Yes, wear a mask.
Wear a mask.
Wear
your mask right now.
Bye, everybody.
I'd like to keep it on, please. Yes, honey.
Happy Friday, you all.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Thank you.